This is out of your magnetic workbook, page 274, from Wild Man Island by Will Hobbs. At 14, Andy's the only kid on his Adventure Alaska kayaking trip. When he sneaks away on a private mission one morning, Andy assumes he can rejoin the trip before anyone misses him. Then, massive sea lions overturn Andy's kayak, forcing him to swim for his life to the beach of a huge wooded island. No day for the beach. I forced myself off my belly and sat up. I was shaking violently. As if it might help, I folded my arms across my life jacket. The shaking was getting worse. I couldn't recall the name of it, but I knew there was a name for what happened when your body got too cold. A fancy name for freezing to death. From across the cove, a solid sheet of rain was coming right at me. All I did was stare at it. Something came back. Something from the class my mother made me take before I started kayaking. If you're still shaking and the cold is still extremely painful, there's time. It's when you aren't shaking anymore and can't feel the cold that your systems are shutting down. The rain lashed my face. Get up, my mind screamed at my body. Do something or you're dead. Get off the beach and get out of the rain. Get in the trees. Your only chance is in the trees. Once in the forest, I couldn't feel the rain anymore. There wasn't much light. I was under trees as big around and tall as redwoods. Get your clothes off, fool, I heard myself saying. They're wringing wet. Not warm enough. I sat down on a mossy log. With my trembling left hand, I managed to unzip my life jacket, the fleece jacket, and the vest, then tried to make my frozen fingers undo the buttons on my wool shirt. In frustration and fear, I ripped the shirt open at my neck and at the cuffs and pulled it over my head. With the rest of my clothes off, I sat shaking so hard it felt like my skinny ribs would crack, and squeezed every drop of water I could out of my clothes. Starting with my thermal underwear, I began to put everything back on. The thermals, pants, vest, and jacket were all synthetics that weighed almost nothing and dried fast. My shirt was wool, but I knew from backpacking at high altitude that wool can keep you warm even when it's wet. Rain was dripping through the canopy of the forest, but not that much. The problem now was the air was so cold. Shivering and shaking, I put my life jacket back on and zipped it up, grateful for the additional layer around my chest. At least I'd had the sense, I thought, to put it on when I went paddling on flat water this morning. It all came rushing back. It hit me full force how totally, absolutely, monumentally stupid I had been. You're a fool, I told myself. I can't believe what you did. So sure of yourself, and you knew nothing. I tried to get warm by jogging in place. Before long, I could tell it wasn't working, not nearly enough. My insides were deadly cold. Without a fire, I couldn't last. I had to get some body heat back somehow. If not fire, what else? My eyes cast wildly around for possibilities. How? I couldn't see an answer. I lost precious time stumbling around looking for one. All I could see was trees. The trees better be the answer, I thought. There is nothing else. A hole in a tree? Find a tree with a hole in it and crawl into the hole? Not warm enough to pull me back. Insulation. My eyes fell on a gigantic spruce that had fallen over long ago. Its bark was gone and it was nothing but a spongy, decaying mass with ferns growing along its mossy length, farther than my eye could see. Get inside that thing, I told myself. Somehow get in it or get under it or something. What I had in mind sounded crazy. I needed a digging tool. I tore at a branch from a small downed tree. The trunk was so rotten, the branch pulled right out of its socket and fell over backward. The branch was still sound. It had come out with a thick knot at the end that tapered down like a spear point. I could dig with it just the way it was. I ran along the length of the giant spruce and found a place where it had fallen across a dip in the ground. Daylight was showing under the tree. I attacked the underside and it shredded easily. The wood was so punky it really wasn't wood anymore, just pulp. Insulation, I thought. Insulation might be my only chance. I speared and dug and hacked until I had made a burrow in the underside of the rotten log. Like an animal going into hibernation, I crawled in and pulled the pulp against myself until only my face was open to the air. I had a thick layer of dry shreds under me, and I felt like I was packed inside a cocoon. Now I could only hope that my skinny body was still producing some of the heat. If it was, my cocoon might keep me from losing it. It took a while, but at last I wasn't vibrating like a power sander. Maybe the rotting tree was generating a little heat. Whatever the reason, gradually, very gradually, the shaking turned to shivering, and at last, even the shivering quit. That was when I turned to worrying about what came next.